note, it seems like about a year now. And we pretty much got it to where we thought we would like it, and Ken, Susan, April, and Mary Fran Romanowski, who couldn't be here today, have been test running it now for months. So they're very comfortable with using it, and that's why I've asked them to be part of our panel today. So if you have practical questions, that you'll be able to ask them. And Stephanie has been working with us on the committee, and she had Mary Fran as a TSS utilizing the note, but Mary Fran wasn't actually part of the committee. So we thought that that would be an interesting way to see how utilizing it would work out. So, and then Adria and I have been on the committee doing the administrative end of it. I was part of a work group with the state for a long time, and learned the things that they would like to see be in a note, the standards that are expected in a note. So we've incorporated all of those standards into this note, but making it so that hopefully it's easier for you to do, less writing, but still capturing everything that's required by the state. The biggest thing that's required by the state is they were requiring documentation. At first they were saying every 15 minutes. But thankfully, through the practical providers who were on the committee, we got that to 30 minutes. So that's why now you'll see in the samples that you have, the behavior tracking is no longer a separate sheet. It's now part of the note. So you will be doing the tracking every day, and that's going to meet the requirement of documenting what you do every 30 minutes. Instead of having to write a note or some sort of an entry every 30 minutes, and that it'll all be part of the same document. And in having that note this way, it's going to eliminate that weekly summary that you might have been doing at the end. When you do today's note, you're done. There'll be nothing else to do after you do your daily note. So we're going to go through the different parts of the note for you. You have a blank in there that would be a sample of if you were doing coverage. It wouldn't be a pre-printed note. And then you have different samples that Adria will talk about. In front of you, you should probably have the note that looks like this. May Williams, and the first section she had some non-billable time. So we'll start with that, and Adria's going to go through the parts of it. A lot of it's basic, and it's what you have already been doing.
The top part, which we used to call like activity log, is almost the same. You're going to start with filling in your client's full legal name, and the initials would be typed in when you get your paperwork. The client ID number is new. It's a 4-digit number that's assigned to the client. The BSC has access to that, and so do the administrative staff, so we would be able to get that for you. But when you have your own client's paperwork, it would be typed in for you every day. So then the day and date of service you need to fill in as you're doing now. You need to fill in your name and the BSC name if it's not already typed in. And then you would go down to the service start and end time, which is the same, where you'll be listing your times, including AM and PM. The total service time is where you put your hours and units in decimal form. And then the service location, the number of service units is that you multiply your hours and minutes by 4 to calculate the units. And just as a reminder, something that we've noticed is that you have to bill in the 15-minute increments. If you can't finish a unit, you have to cut back to the previous unit. So you are not allowed to round up to the unit. So even if you've fulfilled 25 minutes of a unit, you can't say that it was, a 30-minute time period that you were with the client. You would have to go back to that 15-minute prior. So you can't round up and say you were there to that next unit.
Does that make sense to you? Because we know, we have heard that maybe some people thought that you had been there for 25, maybe even you were there for 27 minutes, and the client got picked up and taken to a dentist appointment. You have to go back to the amount of time that you had fulfilled with them. So not that you wouldn't be able to allow for that time on your timesheet, but we can't bill anything but full units, which is 15 minutes.
The service location, you only have to circle school, home, or community. And then you do not circle a location if you did not provide services. And you wouldn't be able to circle 2 locations on the same line. Non-billable codes, you're just going to circle which code you used. You do not need to list hours or units for non-billable codes. So you don't have to figure out how many minutes was 0.17. All you have to do is write the time in that's the code, put it in parentheses, and circle the appropriate code. The codes are still the same, and they're pre-printed underneath in case you forgot what they were. Moving over to the other side where it says present, you're going to list the names of the teachers, school staff, parent, caretaker your client had direct contact with during the session. Only list those whom your client had interactions with. If you do not know the teacher's last name, it is acceptable to list them as Mr. C or Mr. John. So you're just going to check off the box next to their appropriate title, and then you're going to fill in their name. If the BSC is present during the session, you're going to check off that box, and you're going to include the time that they were there.
You don't have to add their name if their name is pre-printed here. In most instances, it would be your BSC. There are times when maybe another BSC would come for some reason, and that would be the only reason to indicate that if a different BSC came. Maybe they came to help and there was an emergency going on, and they happened to be at the school. That would be the time to indicate their name.
I have a question about that. Sometimes the BSC will stay longer than the TSS will. Should you write how long they're there while you're there, or how long they plan to stay?
You can only account for the time period that you know of. Sharon?
I have a high school student that sees 4 different teachers. So what do you have to list all 4 teachers?
Yes.
For each class?
The state would like you to do that, yes. They would like you to list all adults present, but we're suggesting that you list all teachers that you can, and in particular teachers that the client may have had interaction with. So you may need to put 2 on a line, you can put multiple on a line, that's not a problem, and you could have, you know, Mrs. Z and Mr. C and Miss Joan and Mr. David.
I just wanted to make sure that
it's harder with the older kids. Yes, it is harder with the older kids.
But only one has to sign, right?
Yeah, only one person has to sign, and I would suggest that you have that be someone from the school. If the BSC came out to visit, you can have them sign it. I see that some of you do that, but you really should have verification from the service area that you provided services to, a parent when it's home community, and someone from the school when you provide services in school. Hang on, there's lots of hands here. Alicia?
What about opening a situation where I'm at school anyway? Do I just have them both sign the same line then?
No.
Well, that's the next thing we were going to say. If you change service locations in the same day, you need to start a new note. This ensures behaviors observed will be addressed at each location. If you stayed in school and you came back and you went back to school, that's all school, so that would stay on one note. But if you saw them in school and then you went into the home and community with them on the same day, it would be two separate
It has to be 2
notes.
separate notes. Missy?
In the case that I had, my kid is in a class where there's a nurse. It's not, and he's in direct contact, but it's not for him that I have visually down.
No, you wouldn't have to. There's going to be other TSS in the room.
Right.
There could be, you know, a speech therapist for someone else. You don't have to list people that have nothing to do with your